Welcome to Intuitive You with Abby Gooch, where you can discover more about your innate ability to heal and create a life you love by activating the power of your intuition. And now, your host, Abby Gooch.
All right, so welcome. We are so glad you are here, whether it's the morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world listening to this. And today we have a very special guest. She's a dear friend of mine from where I used to live, and it's gorgeous there too. She's in Eugene, Oregon, and she has an organization called Millions of Women Strong. And this woman has already coached 1,000 people for free from the service of her heart, and has a really strong mission of just empowering women and helping us all just to be better and serve to a greater capacity. So Georgiana, if you want to introduce yourself formally, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to be here. So I'm Georgiana, and as Abby said, I'm the founder of Millions of Women Strong, and I'm a sales and business performance coach. And really everything I do is in service of women thriving, because you know what? I think that we're going to be the change makers this world needs. And once we reach that tipping point of financially, emotionally, and spiritually successful women, the world will change.
So it already is. And I feel like, the way we connected was actually through my mom, but through intuition and just that heart-centered awareness. So I would love to hear how you followed your intuition to create this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I worked for a personal development company. It's kind of actually a funny story, but and I was really great at what I did. I was basically the sales manager, and, it was an international company. It was great, but it was still very much a corporate entity, very driven, very masculine. And although I was really very successful, I didn't like who I'd become to accomplish that success. And so I left. And the interesting thing was, as I'm kind of going through this journey, right? So I swing from this very masculine, driven, get shit done to the other side of the very feminine, spiritual, intuitiveness. I thought that I had discovered something, like, oh, there's this feminine and masculine. It was so funny because I'm like, I had no idea. And I actually thought like I had discovered this masculine and feminine energy. And it was hysterical. So anyway, I soon found out that I wasn't the founder of that, but it did take me on a journey. And I think my whole life has really been about intuitively following what's next.
Yeah.
Some of them, I guess I would have to say, when I wasn't following my intuition, like if I dug back to where things didn't work, it was probably because I wasn't tuned in and was thinking more with my head than my intuition and following that. But it is really interesting because life took me on this journey to really discover how I could create something by, I want to call it going with the flow or tuning into something bigger, And so that really has been, since I started my business in 2014 or 13, whenever it was, it really has been that journey of trusting where to go next.
Yeah, so I love that you bring up that point, Georgiana, because I feel like there's always more than one road, but there's definitely two roads in the sense of following your intuition or not, right? And they're very different. So I'd love for you to go into a little bit of what it feels like not to follow your intuition, some of those signs, like maybe like you're forcing things or it doesn't feel quite right, versus going with the flow, the innate joy of being and following your intuition and just kind of knowing what's next, just to kind of have that discernment. And if by chance you're feeling like you're a little off, not following your intuition, how you just pop back on that, right? Because you can do that in a second.
Well, it's interesting to pop back into it because, for a while, I didn't know how to pop back into it. So when I'm not following my intuition, and it really is a lot of struggle, it's a lot of force. It's not that you can't be successful without following your intuition, I don't think, but that's what I felt with when I was working for the corporation. It was making something happen. You know, it was taking all the actions. It was forcing an outcome. And so in my life, I now know that when I'm not connected to my intuition, to my heart, to who I want to be and represent myself in the world, when things aren't going, I want to say well, but that's not it, because that kind of makes the assumption that when you follow your intuition, everything goes well, because that's not true either. But I think that there's a sense of just being in the world that you can trust. You know, there's to be able, and so when I don't feel connected in my heart and I'm making something happen, I just sit. I sit, I breathe, I meditate, I do whatever, and it's kind of like plugging back in.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we're always connected to our intuition. In my experience in working with a lot of people and also myself, is it makes you more successful. It makes things easier. And so, you know, it is, like I said, it's always there. So if you feel a little bit off, it's like, what do you need to quote unquote plug back in? For you, it's sitting and meditating. For me, it's usually going for a walk or calling my mom. I mean, doing something that clicks me back in. And I think, you know, the foundation is always going to be from love. That's why you go to your heart and then your gut. And it's funny, yesterday I was not feeling too attached, but I was just noticing that I could be attached to a certain outcome. But when I let go, it was even better. So that's the thing about intuition, is sometimes you can't necessarily see it, and your mind might think like, hey, I really want this, I want to try to force it. But your intuition knows something even better. So if you can kind of open up to that greater flow and trust that you're being guided to something even better. You know?
So I have a question for you there inside of that, because I wonder, like, especially when I went back to working for the corporate situation, where it really was a lot, like there was just nothing in the flow. In my experience, it was a lot of making it happen. So you say you're always connected to your intuition. Is it that you're not listening to your intuition?
So to me, what you're saying is you were going back to the corporate world and you're feeling like there was a lot of force, right? It wasn't feeling good for you. So to me, that's saying that's not your intuitive path. That's saying there's something else for you. And I work with a lot of clients who've been in positions like that, where they're very successful in their companies, and they either end up bringing intuition to the company. Like right now, we have somebody that did level 2 and she's now teaching it in a corporation. But if the corporation doesn't end up accepting it, I have a lot of students leave the company and start their own companies, because they either, it's like you rise up with that greater level and the company does it with you, or not. And so to me, when you're saying that, that was your sign that that's not your intuitive path. And now I know you have this amazing company helping people one-on-one, and you have millions of women strong. So you were being guided by your intuition. That was just your sign not to go down that path. Right? So
okay.
That force, right? It's like, no, just back off, just kind of above it, and then kind of see where the current's taking you. Of love, right?
It's interesting. I think looking back on things, I can definitely see, you know, I mean, it wasn't like a conscious thing, like following my intuition and being more present to that is more of a, I guess, more recent thing, like actually being conscious to that. But it's interesting. I can, you know, given what you said, I can really see it's like, okay, there's been times where, I mean, I've always said, like, that was a blessing. Like, there was a guy that I dated who broke up with me, my ex-husband, who cheated on me. And it was like such a blessing, right? Such a blessing. And I think that's that intuition to know that things that aren't good, like maybe they don't feel good, is actually a blessing to move you into your highest good. I don't know.
Well, to me, that's a beautiful perspective. I don't know that that's necessarily intuition. I think you followed your intuition during that time, but somebody else's behavior you couldn't control. And so you're choosing to stay connected in your intuition during that time. So I think that intuition can be your biggest strength, right? Again, I'm going to say we don't always control everything out there. We can influence it. But, you know, your ex-husband, your boyfriend, whatever, okay, they did that. That's not necessarily your intuition. your ability to be present in the moment and deal with it and create, huge. And so that was your strength. That was your connection point. Yeah. So I think finding your intuition in every moment. And then you said your perspective was, this is a blessing. So you moved into a higher awareness and you were able to transform that experience. And so that's beautiful.
Yeah. And it seems like I'm now interviewing you.
Okay, it's a conversation. We're co-hosts and anybody can hop on. As far as the chat, if you guys have questions, I'll just turn it on. Feel free to message Georgiana, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, now I lost my question, but I think the intuition, being able to connect into that, I mean, what a beautiful way to live life, right? Yeah. And I know that's kind of probably what you teach. And it's interesting, what you said, this person who's teaching it now in the corporations to take that on, like, what kind of world would we live in? What kind of businesses would we have if people were always connected to intuition and leading and loving and everything from that? You're like, yeah, that's why.
I'm so excited. Well, it's called Executives with Heart. It's so beautiful. And it was like, I mean, we knew it too. And yeah, her mom had passed on and she was like getting, messages from her mom. It was just so beautiful. It was just such a higher evolved thing. And so, yeah, I'm just excited because of course I adore her and I just love the message. I just think it's so incredible that, we really are, like you said, the change makers. And so to be it, that's the other thing that you said, is it's really being the energy, it's being intuition. And it's funny, I always get hits before we to have our conversation. And last night I was wondering, why am I thinking this thought? But I remember when I started, really my passion. And I think I had started the company. I was a nanny at the time and also starting the business. And I remember seeing life through my heart. That's what connected me to everything. And it was like life was just love, And if I had a moment of feeling like fear, I'd be like, oh, well, I don't want to be on that path. Like there's love or fear. How do I get back into love? So when you literally start, not literally, but figuratively, when you actually feel life through your heart, you have an entirely different reality. And executives, people twice my age would come to me like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, well, this is just what I see. They're like, that's an interesting perspective. And I was like, yeah, it works. It's fun, right? And then people are drawn to that. So if we all worked for that place, oh my God, yeah. Can you imagine corporations totally working from heart and this whole world? I actually feel like that's where we're shifting. I mean, that's where I'd like us to shift to, that would just be so amazing if this whole planet, and I feel like you are a change maker in that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show and everybody listening is, when we become the change and listen to our hearts, this present moment and the next present moment is such a gift because it's just this ripple. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, I think, since I'm as a sales coach, and I know not everybody is in business or sales or anything, but I, just to kind of tie it in here, because I think that when you look at the world from a place of being of service, which is, what I teach with the sales, through sales coaching, right? But really, and this is what I tell people when I'm training in sales, we're all salespeople. We are, whether you're asking your child to make their bed, you're in a sales conversation, right? Any kind of conversation that is asking for somebody to take some kind of action. And, if you are connected and through your heart making the requests, it's kind of like what you said, there's a new possibility that's available for the other person.
Right. 100%.
That's not there if you're just trying to make that request. Just think about, I don't even have kids. I don't know why I use this analogy. But
well, no, my mom used to tell me that actually. She did. She was like, everything is sales. She's like, go to the store. They're selling you stuff. Yeah, I'm really feeling that paradigm shift of from the heart, truly. And, to your point of what you do in your company is you're very much about service. So when you're coming from your heart, you are absolutely going to be serving, period. Like it's just
Exactly, right? You're always in service.
right.
You're connected here, speaking through here,
Right.
requesting through here, living through here.
Yeah.
You are being of service.
Yeah. And by the way, that's when you're going to make the most money. It's so easy because
Yeah.
people love it. They love feeling love. They love feeling your heart. It's the highest vibration. I studied with Sonia Choquette for a long time, and she said, love is the food of the universe. Just is. For
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, I think, what can you do to raise your vibration and keep yourself in that heart frequency? And it's almost like love then becomes the foundation of trust, because when you have that, it's easier to trust. When you're in that place of your heart and in that place of love, it's easy to trust. When you're in fear, you're probably going to go into like panic or pain or your head or whatever,
It's interesting when you just said that. I thought, it is that it's almost, I was thinking like, I don't care anymore, but it's not like, like I don't care. But it is that the other side of not caring is trusting.
Mm.
And I think that that level of not caring that you can and do trust what's meant to be is going to be.
Yeah, and maybe see if this resonates with you. It's almost like a letting go. So it's not like you don't care about the person, but you're like, I'm letting go of that outcome, right? Like I'm letting go of that attachment because I trust the higher. So as I'm serving you from my heart, I care about you, but it's not like, gripping. It's like, I'm going to let go and know I'm here for you, I'm here.
Yeah. I think spot on, right? Because it's, and when I say I don't care, I don't know, maybe those are the wrong words, but
I think I know what you're saying. That's why I was just kind of using different verbiage because like, I know how much you serve. So it's a letting go, it's a connecting, letting go. Yeah.
I love that too. I haven't thought of it that way, but it is letting go of the attachment, and wherever we are, whether we're in a relationship or in a sales conversation in business or just in another conversation with another person. I mean, if I look back at all the times that if I had let go, like there would have been a complete different outcome.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the success stories of you following your intuition? Like what have you seen in your company and just your life?
Oh boy. Well, I think for sure, I mean, the one big one was leaving the corporate setting. That was such a huge thing because it was, at one level it was a heartbreak because I loved what I did and I loved the mission that the company was on. But there was a certain level of I'm going to say letting go of that to be able to create something that was for my higher good and for the higher good of others. Now, it was a journey. I mean, it was definitely a little bumpy.
Yeah.
Like when I left, I didn't know what it, and that's what it was. It was trusting my intuition that there was something bigger, better for me to accomplish in this world that I wasn't going to accomplish if I stayed. So trusting that, letting go of my attachment to, what so many people do when they go from a job to a business, right? Well, how am I going to make it? The healthcare and this, and like, I really like severed that, all those beliefs that I needed to stay.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like jumping off a cliff and not knowing what was going to catch me, but trusting that it would all work out. And I explain myself this way. I get scrappy, like, when I trust, but then there's actions. You can't just blind trust and not take action. So, I get a little scrappy, like I'll, go this way. And if that's not the right way, and then this way, it's like all these things and gathering what there is to learn as I go through. It's like, okay, well, not that, but okay, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really been a journey of letting go, getting scrappy, making things happen, but finding out and discovering for myself. So one of the things when I started my business was I was living with a good friend of mine, and she said, "Why are you doing this?"
Mm.
And I actually had to think, because I think inside of my intuition of leaving the company, which was not distinguished for me at that time. It's not like I'm going to follow my intuition, which says I should leave here. It wasn't anything magical like that. It was probably I'm like jump the gun with stuff. Like, once I'm done, I'm out. Let's start anew, right? But she said, "Why are you doing this?" And I literally had to stop and think, because I'm not sure I knew. Like, I hadn't, and I think that might have been, hindsight, of course, like the ultimate intuition, what that was guiding me without me really being able to distinguish what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But from that moment when she asked me that question, being able to see for myself that for me, there was something higher and bigger and better for me to be able to serve people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that, really, I've spent a lot of my life in intuition and not knowing it, like being able to go back and trust it. And like you said, you're always there, but I can see a lot of things in my life that have happened because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people are not even aware that they're following their intuition. So like, if you just, notice, okay, well, now if I put like a highlighter on all the times that I have followed my intuition, I'll realize I'm way more intuitive than I realized. And so it's really fun to kind of like look on your life and just see how intuitive you really are. And the other thing you mentioned was like following your knowing. And so that is intuition. So you have this knowing and then you take action on it, right? So for me at 19, I was like, sweet, I'll build a website. I'll take action on this. I'll put like some flyers here. I'll do this. Like, I'll do the speaking thing. So it's constantly in movement, right? And so you want to make sure you're taking that action on your knowing, because that is what creates the results.
Yeah. One thing I just started, the Olympics obviously just happened, everybody knows, but I used to show jump horses for many, many years, from the time I was 8 until I was about 24. And, talk about intuition. And that is like connecting into, being with a horse, where you're jumping over huge fences that are crazy, especially in the Olympics. But, that kind of intuitive connection between, it has to happen between people too, right? But that was, I think, one of the things that it was hard when I stopped riding horses, because it was that kind of connection, that intuitive connection, the understanding and all of that. There was no better place for me when things didn't feel good than either sitting in the corner of my horse's stall or riding or just being with my horse, or any horse really, because it was such a authentic connection. With no judgments. It was just, that was amazing.
That's awesome. What do you think the basis of that? It's almost like unconditional love, trust, understanding. What do you think the basis of intuitive connection is?
You just said it. I think it's that love. It's the unconditional love. It's unconditional trust. An understanding, a commitment to understanding.
Yeah.
Because, you think about, there's no more trust between, when I used to show jump horses, right? The kind of trust that you have and connection that you have with, a horse that, I don't know how much horses weigh, but thousands of pounds, right? that as you sit on their back, guiding them down to say a 4-foot fence, they have to trust you and you have to trust them. And let me tell you, I've been on horses that I don't trust.
Wow.
And there's horses that don't trust, right? So there's dogs, there's animals, right? There's all kinds of things. If you think about it, there are plenty of animals that we can see that don't trust.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, it's a beautiful thing, right? We hear stories about it, where maybe a wild animal saves a human being, and that has that trust, or it's it's amazing, because I think that intuitive love and connection and understanding and all of that can happen between anyone.
Wow. It's so funny. I have like flies running around. They drive me a little crazy, but I'm like, what are they showing me? And I'm looking at a picture when I was in Thailand, and I don't necessarily agree with like what everybody does with elephants in Thailand, but we went to a reserve out there, and there's actually a picture of me on an elephant, and I'm like bareback on it. And there was so much trust. And it was just like, it's like I'm kissing it. It's amazing, because it's exactly what you're talking about. It's just like this pure, like unconditional love. I mean, it's so beautiful. And that's why I have it on my desk. It's just like, you can feel it, and it's like blessing the earth together. So I feel like, where can you find your intuitive connection? So everybody listening, where can you find, and you can always find it within yourself, because it's between you and the universe first and foremost, but where are the areas or the people, where you have that unconditional love, or animals, the trust in nature too, like the ocean, the trees, like whatever calls to you, wherever you are, to find that unconditional love, trust, and understanding. And to feel your connection to all of life through your heart. And you can actually even feel it through your hands. So it's like, once you start at your heart, you can feel energy moving through your hands. In fact, if everybody wants to rub their hands together, you can start to generate some energy. And then when you start to pull them apart, you can actually feel the energy getting bigger or smaller, and realizing how you're shifting energy all the time. So in a sense, you're not in control of it, but you're influencing it, right? And you can really create the life you want from managing your energy, attracting, deflecting, clearing, right? And guiding, like guiding the horse, and trusting. And so I just feel like, notice where you can tune in and find your intuitive connection throughout the day, in your business, in your job, in your relationships. And there's this subtle knowing. It's like grace. It'll carry you, because we're supported. And just tune in to that higher frequency, because there are different frequencies, right? There are some people and things that are being operated from fear in the head, and you can feel it. And that's probably where you're going to get those like, doesn't feel right. Or you can shift into your heart and say, okay, show me my intuitive path. That one doesn't feel good over there. Show me the intuitive one, because that's going to be guided by my heart, and it's going to feel good. And you're sure, yes, there are challenges sometimes, but like you're held. That's the difference. You're held in love, and you're not alone, because you are intuitively connected. There's a constant flow supporting you. So I just wish that for everybody, because I do feel like I see this image of like, the new earth, like a circle just being lit with light, like it's available if we listen and we follow that. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I think what you're saying is really, well, it's really cool, because I think for myself, when throughout the day, like I can definitely see where I go in and out of being connected or trusting. I know I'm connected, but trusting, I guess, is that, because it's, when I get caught up in the doingness of my day, that's a red flag. Like when I'm sit down, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Looking around, it's like, okay, chill out.
Yeah.
And I do a lot. I'm a certified heart math instructor or coach, whatever. Anyway, but what I love about that is that's what I do to connect into my heart, to always get out of I call it being a doo-doo head, which is all just about doing this and doing that, where there's no trust or anything. It's being a doo-doo head. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's just about being present in the moment, right? And then all that you need to do flows, and the next thing to do next, and then the next one. So it just becomes more of a dance, and really, I think joy is so key. It's like I walk down the street, happy people are attracted to you. So as you move into your happiness, as you move into your joy, good things are attracted to you, right? Because that is raising your frequency. So what can you do to have like love and above emotions, right? So you have love, and then maybe joy and bliss and happiness just keeps getting higher. So it's like, what moves you into that place of receptivity to greater love and trust in yourself? And obviously, I think the biggest block is probably fear. So if you feel that fear, it's like, okay, what can I do to reconnect and move myself back into the flow of love, living in love?
Yeah, that, I think it's interesting is that that love or above, right, and when you're not there, being able to speed up the knowing that you're not there.
To just be aware of it. Yeah.
Say that again.
I'm aware of it. So those flies, got to embrace the flies. I have the door open, so they're just like coming at me. By the way, sorry to interrupt you. I want to give credit to the person that came from. So Devi Adea, it's Devi, and Adea is ADEA. She has been, I was on her podcast. I'm not sure. I think we did have her once on here, but that's who said it. She has Spiritual Entrepreneurs. That's her podcast. And it's so great. She's the one that told me about Love and Above years ago. So I just want to credit her and have people go check her out, because she's such an amazing being living Love and Above. So anyways, what you were saying, I was just like,
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I know for myself, like having spent most of my life probably not connected to being present in the moment, present, and really at the source of my own happiness or joy. It's an ongoing practice. I think that there's probably, like you said, this person who lives at love and above, right, all the time. But I think it's also important to know that it's not somewhere you arrive. Like, it takes practice. It's not something you just are or aren't. I don't think, anyway, because I mean, I hope not, because if that's the case, then I'm hopeless, right? Because I have to kind of check in with myself throughout the day when things are happening and, reconnect, because it's love or above and being in joy and bliss. I mean, that seems like it's something for the yogis to live in and, go sit around the top of a mountain, om.
Yeah, it's definitely a practice. I mean, I heard my guide say it yesterday. I was like, I was feeling a little irritated waiting for somebody. I'm like, really? Like, come on. And my guides are like, it's a practice, Abby. Stay in love. It's a practice. I was like, okay, because it is. It's like, it doesn't really matter. It's just like, yeah, for us all, I mean, it's a constant awareness and practice to stay in that place. And when you let go of what doesn't serve, it does open you up to that greater flow. So I just think it's staying in that trust that you're not alone. It's definitely a practice.
Thank God.
For sure. Well, is there anything else you want to add about, staying in the flow? I mean, I guess I'd love to hear some like practical results you've seen from following your intuition. I mean, obviously creating your company is one of them, but it's like, for me, just watching clients raise their income, monetizing their gifts, like anything like that you've seen as you have followed your intuition. Also, greater happiness and fulfillment usually happens, which is the other layer, I think, is, you were at this corporate thing, but it was the fulfillment and happiness that probably, I bet you, if I was to ask you, would outweigh even the money, right? Because deep down, we just want to feel happy and fulfilled and connected. So I would love to hear some results, you've seen with you or your clients, in following your intuitions.
Yeah, I think, because especially as a sales coach, and I work with clients that are struggling with sales in their own businesses, and they are afraid of being whatever, salesy or pushy or whatever that is. And because a big part of what I teach is having people connect to their intuition in the sales conversation. And, I mean, the results are ridiculous. So I have many clients that have gone from, 5 figures who hated sales, like they tried to outsource it. And I had one client, she's like, can you come do the sales for me? And like, really, like she would do she hired people. And some of it wasn't even knowingly, like it was like she would try and do some, get somebody in that would do something, and then it would turn into them doing the sales conversation. Like it was slick. Like she was so slick with herself to try and avoid it. And when we got connected to, when she got connected to being of service in the sales conversation and just trusting what there was to talk about, like trusting what the conversation would just arise. It wasn't something she had to make happen. Yeah. And now she outsources everything else so she can do all the sales because she's so connected to it making a difference. And, she just closed her first $600,000 deal.
Wow.
One deal. Another client who stopped trying to make it happen, who went from $50,000 a year to $400,000 a year in less than a year.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous when the kind of results that people, especially for me with the entrepreneurs who when they're connected to their intuition and connected to their heart and connected to being of service, like anything is possible. Like anything is possible.
Oh, totally.
And that's why I say that we all get into business. Is because we're here to serve and to create new possibilities for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What is the one paradigm shift you think from your heart and your intuition from sales? So from sales is hard, it's pushy, to what is the new paradigm that people can walk away with in regards to sales?
Being of service.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sales is being of service.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when you're being of service, where are you connected? In your heart, right?
Yeah. To your people. I was like, to your people.
Well, you are through your heart, though.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah.
And so then and when you're connected through your heart, then you're just listening, you're open, you're available to whatever arises in the conversation that you can make a difference for another human being. I mean, I'll do that all day long.
Totally. Yeah. Which leads me to the Millions of Women Strong. So how you created that, is helping people. And I know you coached 1,000 women and now you have like a live Facebook group. So can you share a little bit about the birth of that and how people can, join that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny how I birthed it. It started as Women Connecting because I had moved somewhere where I didn't know anybody. And since then I have done that 3 or 4 times now, but, and it's evolved. It keeps evolving. Like I just keep connecting into what I say it didn't know what it wanted to be until it got here in Eugene. And it really has been for me about connecting. I mean, I'm a business person and I love networking and building relationships with other people, but so many of those types of groups are so not about connecting. Like it's really talk about the old paradigm of doing business and throwing your card out like you give somebody your card like they're gonna do business with you. It's like crazy. But that's what it is. And it's also something bigger because even though Millions of Women Strong, there's a lot of women who own businesses there. There's also a lot of women who are looking for jobs. There's women who are retired because there's something with women that a connection of, I think building that higher connection for, it's called Millions of Women Strong. We're global, right? to imagine being connected to 1 million women around the world. Be ridiculous, right? So that's really kind of like everything, even though our membership is based more towards women that are in business, being able to connect with the people in the Facebook group has been amazing. We have a long ways to go to be millions of women strong, but we're getting there, and it's literally standing for one another and supporting each other. And if you're a woman listening, come join us at Millions of Women Strong in Facebook, in our Facebook group. We would love to have you.
Yeah, I believe in it. I believe you'll have millions. It's just so great. It's such a great mission, and just the collaboration of coming together. I think that's what I love is, my company's Life Force Connection, like I want connection, right? It's like, it's the same type of energy. It's like you come together and you just create this strength and this power. And then supporting each person within, right? To say, oh, this is what you want to do. How can I help you? And that, right? And that is the heart connection. So people can find you on Facebook. Is there anywhere else? Do you have a website that you'd like to share where people can connect with you?
Yeah, we do have a Facebook group, but we also have a website, millionsofwomenstrong.com. And we just launched our Wisdom of Women, which is a journal for women and by women. There's articles for business women. There's articles for not business women. So, you can check that out on our website as well.
Nice. So anything else you want to share on the show? Like anything else about intuition, yourself, or listeners? Anything else that you'd like to share?
I think what I'm really present to right now is the gifts that so many people have, like yourself, right? And you standing and being of service for people in regards to connecting to their intuition and what that makes available to the world, and giving. And there's so many people out there, not just women. I think women are probably the majority, but I just, maybe I want to believe that, I don't know. But I think that's part of the intuition, is being able to trust who you follow, what you study, maybe what you learn. There's a lot of different ways, to use intuition, obviously within business, but also if you're not in business, or there's something that you want to learn, or something new adventure, or something new you want to take on within yourself, like trusting and listening to your intuition to be able to know what the next path of study and all of that goes. And so I don't know, I was just called to say that. And I think it's to be able to be called to other people that are on this kind of same journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for saying that. It's like I forgot about even mentioning that, but I really take a stand for intuition in general, and also for spiritual entrepreneurs and people in general to monetize their gifts. So that was like, my gift, my awareness. I think I was like in my early 20s. It was like the curriculum came to me, and I'm like, hey, spiritual entrepreneurs, they have so many gifts. Like, I need to show them how to monetize them so the world can receive their gifts, so they can support themselves and they can live lives they love. Because it's an art. When you're following your intuition, there's some expression of your soul that's so beautiful, that's unique to you. And that's why you guys are all welcome. I'm sure a lot of you know it, but if you don't already, you can go to lifeforceconnection.com and see about all the different certifications. It's now international, where people start businesses literally from like me, from the ground up, or they have other companies and they grow them. There's this one woman I was telling you about, I think before we went live, Georgiana, she was in Jordan, and she was a yoga teacher when she started. And now, like, she was able to build her own brand for a fashion company and actually create her own clothes. It's just like, wow. Like you said, like, anything's possible. So it's like, what is your heart's desire? If you knew you could make money doing what you loved, what would you do? And if you don't want to do a business, are you listening to your intuition and just following your gifts anyways, because it feels good? And what would it take to do that? That's really what I want to stand with you on, because we are here to help you. And that's, why we do this, is to lift each other up and to say, hey, I've done it. I'm doing it. Like, keep going. It works. Trust your intuition.
It's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning on my walk. I can't remember the woman's name, but she was being interviewed by Vishen Lakhiani, and they were taught. She had started several different businesses, a bidet, period panties, all these different things. And she said, when I started, she goes, I'm going to put it into our conversation, but I just heard that that's what there was to do. And so I started taking action, even though I knew nothing about the industry. She goes, I just took one action after another. And she has started, I think it was 3 or 4 very successful products, which I think seem to be harder than starting a service-based business, but maybe I'm making that up too. I don't know. Maybe if you're following your intuition, it's not. And that's really what it was. Like she had a thought, you could say, or intuition, and she just followed it. She's like, okay, let's just go. I don't know anything about it, but I'm just going to keep trusting that I'm taking the right action,
Oh, totally.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
It's a business or a relationship. Anyway, I know I'm speaking with fire here, but it's so
fine.
cool.
It's just a discovery. It's exactly what you said. It's like, oh, now I'm going to do this. Oh, that worked. Okay, now I'm going to do this. Like, it's totally fun. It's a complete adventure. I mean, one of the funnest ways to use your intuition, which is why I teach international retreats, is to go travel. It's like, oh, okay, now here. Oh, now we're guided here. Now we're going to go here. I mean, you're just constantly, like I said, dancing and flowing with it. So, I mean, it's fun, and the way you trust it is you take action and it builds it, right? It's like, oh yeah, I did that and it worked. Now I'm going to take this other step. So you build this inner confidence that becomes unshakable, because, and people question me when I was younger. They're like, did you get your degree? I'm like, I actually left college. And it's because that confidence was stronger than a judgment. And so when you're so connected to your intuition, you're solid in who you are, why you're here, what you stand for, and then you really are serving because you're the living example of what you're teaching. And to me, that's integrity, right? Like walking your talk. So yeah.
I think that what does Oprah say? That's a tweetable moment right there. The confidence is stronger than the judgment.
Yeah, totally.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Confidence is stronger than the judgment. That's
for sure. Yeah, because and it's funny, the opposite of judgment almost is your intuition. It's based in unconditional love. So when you're tuned in to source, which is your intuition, to everyone and everything, it's like you go vertical first, right? Which, when you guys do go to the site, you basically can activate all of your chakras. So you're in this oneness with the universe. And then from your heart, then you go horizontal, like we're all connecting from our heart. So you're bringing in the light and then you're sharing it and it's rippling and then it's coming back to you. So it's this constant flow. And in that place of love, there's no judgment. And then your intuition, so you take it from your heart down to your gut. That's your inner compass. And so then you're being guided. Oh, this feels good. That doesn't feel good. Okay, click, click, click. Oh, success. Oh, that worked. Oh, that worked. Oh, that worked. I swear to you, it works for everything. Like finding the right car, the right house, like whatever. Like you are being guided. So it's just head, heart, gut, and go.
Head, heart, gut, and go.
1, 2, 3. It's that easy. So yeah, it's so much fun. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'll see if there's anybody. I don't see anybody on the chat. And I know I was getting some messages that there was some streaming issues. So I apologize about that. But you can always listen to the recording on wondroustalkradio.com under Intuitive View, and also check out all the other speakers on the station. Let's see, Georgiana, is there a mantra or anything you want to just give people in their back pocket to just pull out and remember throughout their day?
We're stronger together.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know that's the motto of Wondrous Talk Radio? Stronger together.
Is it really?
Kidding. Not even kidding. Good intuition, girl. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you again, everyone. You can join us at lifeforceconnection.com and every Monday here at 9 a.m. Pacific. I need to get a Facebook group. You can go to abbygooch.com for now. We'll work on a Facebook group, and have a beautiful day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on Intuitive You with Abby Gooch, and for following your intuition to make this world a better place by simply being you. See you next time.